Well, hey there, Matt. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So, you have been a customer of ours for a few years now, and it's been, I believe, from the outside, from what you've told me, a bit of a transformation. But I would love for you to start by introducing yourself, introducing Autopilot, and tell the audience a little bit about the company and your background.
Sure, yeah, my pleasure. Again, appreciate the invite. So, Autopilot, we're a precision machine shop based up here in Bozeman, Montana, beautiful Bozeman, Montana. Both milling and turning. We focus primarily on precision machining for the aerospace and defense industry, and then we actually do quite a bit in the outdoor industry. So, obviously,
cool.
Based on where we are, there's a lot of fishing and hunting and climbing and skiing opportunities. So we make a lot of components and parts for that industry, which is kind of nice. R&D and testing. You have to do all that stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty fun. Yep.
And how long have you been involved? Were you one of the founders? Did you help buy into it? What's your story there?
Not one of the founders. Autopilot's been around since 2006. So we're coming up on close to 20 years. I bought in about 6 years ago. I am definitely not a machinist, not an engineer, a very non-traditional path to get in here. So I was actually had about a decade and a half in investment banking. I was living in Bozeman, and kind of the way that this all happened, very just fate basically. I reached out. We have a kind of a sister company that we own called Bozeman Reel. We make fly reels and fishing components.
Oh wow!
Just for fun, little hobby business on the side. And I was doing my investment banking thing and had heard of Bozeman Reel. Seen the magazine ads and read about them in trade publications and realized, they're here in Bozeman where I am. I think I went on the website and hit, the contact us button, info at Bozeman Reel or whatever it was. And not knowing what I was getting into, just said, hey, do you do tours? I love to fish. I'm a big fly fisherman. I would love to see how a fly reel is made. A couple days went by and I got a response like, yeah, I guess, price of admission is a 6-pack. I was like, oh, okay.
Are you serious?
I kind of like
That's
these.
awesome.
Yeah, I kind of like that. So, scheduled it just out of the blue. Didn't know who I was talking to. Rolled in at whatever time the factory tour was set to start, and met my now business partner, also named Matt. He gave me a quick little tour of the machine shop, and I had no idea. I didn't know the difference between a mill and a lathe. Again, machining was not my thing.
Right.
So he gave me the tour, and a 5 or 10 minute tour turned into a 2-hour conversation. Wow. I was just asking questions, and he was doing the same, and he basically told me, he's like, listen, Bozeman Reel is like this much of what we do. That the machine shop has customers in different industries. We do a whole bunch of stuff. The real thing is just on the side, a little hobby kind of thing. So he was asking me about my background, and like I said, it turned into a multi-hour conversation. We really hit it off. And at the end, he basically said, hey, I'm really thinking about growing this business. If you know anybody with similar skill set to you, let me know, because I'm looking for a partner.
Not you.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't. I didn't think anything of it. I was happy doing the banking thing, and months went by. I didn't really think of anything. We didn't have any contact, and then I just, for whatever reason, I was like, maybe I should reach out to this guy again. So we had a beer, and I was like, hey, tell me more about like this machine shop thing. What do you do? Like, what do you need? He's a brilliant engineer, but the business side of it, he just, admittedly so, he's like, I want to grow this. There's a lot of opportunity. I just need help. I need somebody to help me out. And, long story short, that turned into about 1.5 years of us kind of doing the dance, trying to figure out, is this going to work? Can I buy in? What value am I going to bring? What growth opportunities are there? Is this stupid for me to do, believing in one industry going into another I know nothing about? And, it happened. I just, I kind of just decided to make a career change and bought in.
Right.
We both own it 50-50. I serve as the chief financial officer. He's kind of the president. We're both doing day-to-day stuff, but a very complementary skill set. Like I said, I'm not an engineer. I always joke I can barely read a PDF drawing that I get, which way am I holding this thing? And so I'm doing all the stuff, the quoting, the marketing, the HR, the day-to-day stuff. And he's kind of bigger picture, the technical side of things. So yeah, it works out pretty well.
Well, if you're doing the quoting, you probably have learned to read a PDF well enough to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
And so was the brand Autopilot originally part of it, or was it just the real company and you guys started?
No, Autopilot, that started in 2006, really actually as a product development firm. And then, the Bozeman reel was that actually well before my time, but that was started around, I want to say 2009, 2010 during the housing crisis, really just as a means to keep the spindles turning. Work had dried up and there was just kind of a need to keep them going, keep people on payroll. And that was the birth of that.
Okay. So both logos existed when you joined. Mm-hmm. Got it.
Correct.
Okay. Interesting. Fascinating. And what size is the company today?
Yeah, we're at about,
in terms of people or machines or whatever.
About 20 people. I think there were about 5 or 6 when I joined up. We've got about a dozen, CNC machines, about half milling, half turning. So still relatively small. We actually own our own anodizing company that used to be part of Autopilot, and we spun that off into its own thing about 3 years ago.
Cool.
So there's about another 10 people over there.
Oh, very interesting. Mm-hmm. Right on. Diversified. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how fishing reels, being a machining intensive product, back in the Pro CNC days, we got heavily involved with a company making fly fishing reels. Mm-hmm. And so we made a ton of those. And then I know we have at least a couple other customers that have like a fishing reel brand and the machine shop brand. And they do both.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
It is intense. It's definitely, there's it's not a fly part. It's not a medical instrument, but there's, very tight tolerances in the fly reels for sure. Yep.
Yeah. That's very cool. So let's go back to when you were needing a different system, a different software, a different thing to run the company with. What were you doing before? What wasn't working as well as you wanted it to? And why did you start looking?
Yeah, great question. As a lot of shops, I imagine at some point in their journey, we were the standard, Word document, Excel spreadsheet, not even a system. We weren't on another ERP system. It was just a lot of paper, a lot of kind of unlinked, workbooks and tribal knowledge. That's, that's kind of how we lived and breathed. And, if that job needs set up and guy number one's the setup guy and he's not here while we wait until he gets back kind of thing, which is,
oh, that's hard.
Yeah, it was tough, but it worked. So I guess one of the benefits or silver linings of me coming in just green, not knowing anything, I could kind of take a fresh look at things like that and say, hey, is this the best way to do things? Not long after I had joined up as a partner, started researching, ERP systems. I actually, as a side note, knowing that I was going to jump into this industry, first thing I did was Google like manufacturing podcasts, and the Making Chips guys popped up. And so I started, I was on airplanes all the time. And so I would just download episodes and just listen to these just to I started hearing ERP system and ProShop and ProShop, so it was one of those things where I kept hearing and thinking, there's got to be a better way than just these paper travelers. We had talked to some folks in the industry, and basically the feedback we got was, listen, Autopilot, you guys are, at the time, half dozen, 8 people. It's not going to make sense for you to bring on an ERP system. Those things are 6 figures. You're not going to spend $100,000 plus for a teeny tiny little, machine shop. It's not tailored to you. It's not, it's just not going to make sense. And so we kind of put it on the back burner, thinking, yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe it's just, why would we spend $100,000 on that? It's not even going to help us out. So push it to the back for a little bit. And then I think you and I ran into each other. There was a defense show up in Spokane that you had a booth, and I remember just walking by, and you were giving a demo to somebody, and it stopped me in my tracks. It was one of those. I'm like, whoa, okay, all right, this is what I was looking for. So, you know, just one of those where, okay, this truly is for small to mid-size, you know, manufacturing shops. So that really kind of brought that back to, like, you know, I came back from that conference, sat down with my partner, Matt, and said, okay, let's look at this. Let's check this out, because I think this is going to work.
Very cool. So I imagine, in the old system, you would print off a Word template or an Excel template, and that would be your job traveler.
So we would have, you know, we would actually color code. We'd have, you know, a green piece of paper as the front, you know, if it was a first article, or a repeat job, and a blue traveler, like, piece of paper if it was just more of a one-time job. But yeah, a lot of, you know, you'd tuck in the print on the back. You'd have your little inspection, you know, workbook that was printed out so the guys could put it in. They could record some times. And in theory, you know, when you're done with the job, you look at all that, staple it together, or, you know, scan it if you have to send to a customer for the first article report, tuck it in a file cabinet. And then again, in theory, you get that next order, you pull that out and you review everything. But yeah, nothing happens like it's supposed to. So you'd lose them. You'd spill coffee on them, that, you know, smudge, you know, all that stuff. So it just, wasn't working too great.
Did you have any certifications at the time when you?
Not at the time that I joined. A handful of years ago, we actually were AS certified. I want to say it was maybe Rev B, maybe Rev C. Went through the process. It was all paper. I mean, there were binders, as you can imagine, just, you know, everywhere. Did that, and then.
And that was before you joined?
It was before I joined. Yep. Yeah, so I want to say this is maybe like 2012. I joined up in 2018. So the company was AS certified and ISO 9001, but intentionally let it lapse. You know, basically went through everything, got the certifications, and then for whatever reason started polling customers. Hey, is the actual certification important to you? As you know, it's fairly costly and it's, you know, it's tricky to maintain. And the feedback from customers at the time was, no, as long as you're compliant, that's really all we care about. Just, you know, if you follow, you know, just the boundaries and the guardrails of the system, that's what we want. So instead of paying, you know, X dollars per year just to have the piece of paper hanging on the wall, we let it lapse. And then fast forward to, you know, a couple of years ago when the answer changed from, nah, it's not that important, to, it's absolutely necessary for what you want to do. You know, we kind of dusted off the binders. We had ProShop at the time, so kind of matching that up with the template, the QMS template within ProShop, helped us get all that in there and get the AS certification pretty quickly.
Nice. Yeah. How long did that process take?
You know, it was about, I want to say 9 months, but that it very easily could have been half that. We were plugging through, and this also was kind of during the aftermath of COVID, and so a lot of the the on-site meetings were pushed, and they went to Zoom meetings, and so that kind of delayed things a little bit. I'd say if we were really, like, if we were starting it today, we'd get that done in probably 4 months versus the 9 it took.
Sure.
Yep.
And I'm just curious, how much of your old system did you sort of import, copy and paste, or bring into the ProShop QMS modules versus, and I can't remember, did you buy our Flying Start package originally?
Yep, we did.
Okay. So how much of each did you end up with, would you say?
A little bit of both, a mismatch of both. Since we had let it lapse, we went from Rev C to Rev D on the AS 9100 standard. And again, I think that the big change with that was you don't have to follow this rigorous checklist. You build, your QMS, but then it's whatever, you got to do what you say you do. You can say what you do. You don't have to do what we say. So I think taking that liberty and really kind of looking at, okay, how is the business now? Looking at the forms that we had from, half a dozen years ago and saying, is this still applicable? Nah, it's not. Let's start fresh. Let's use kind of either the flying start or create a new quality, quality standard, for example, quality procedure.
Sure.
Or yes, this is still applicable. Let's maybe, button it up a little bit, update it, and load it in. So yeah, it was a combination of both.
Okay. So, coming back to the implementation process, can you describe a little bit about what that was like and how long it took and what, especially the shop floor employees, what they're, some shops are hesitant about, what are the machinists going to think about having to, not have their travelers or their prints right in front of them. Yeah. How did that go?
Yeah, it went really smooth. We basically told the shop when we signed up, hey, this is happening. But then we had a few kind of integrators, for lack of a better phrase, on our side that, we nominated myself, my partner, Matt, and then one other person to basically serve as, we're going to be the guys going through the training with Michael Collins. He was our implementation specialist, did a great job. And again, it was all, web-based, so no on-site stuff. Which went fine. It was nice because we could, the onboarding, we were able to tailor that exactly to what we're doing. If there was something, if the three of us, got something pretty quick, we could tell Michael, hey, yep, we got it. Let's move on to the next thing. And then conversely, if there was something where we're like, hey, we're not quite getting this. Can we spend an extra couple hours on this? He would, he'd kind of slow things back, roll it back a little bit, and spend some time on the areas that we really needed to work on. So we did that for probably about, I want to say 3 or 4 months to go through the whole module, the whole onboarding. We took that. And then when we felt comfortable, we rolled that out to the whole shop. Again, they knew it was coming. But we went live, and for maybe a handful of jobs, kind of dual tracked. You guys are familiar with the paper version. Let's do this, but let's also implement, the web-based ProShop version, just so it wasn't cold turkey. Friday you're using paper and Monday it's all web-based.
Sure.
And the feedback was great. We had, there was no pushback. There's obviously the little hiccups of, hey, where do I find that again? Or what button do I push? Or, whatever it may be. But we were anticipating a little bit of pushback or hesitancy. It's a big culture shift. But honestly, it was very well received. Even, I was a little surprised, some of the more tenured people in the industry where you kind of think that, that's not for me. I know what I'm doing. I've got it all up here, they were some of the first to say, oh yeah, this is great. This is really going to help.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you do a pretty thorough job sort of prepping them in advance, like months in advance, and show them videos like this is, some of our promos, or like this is what it's like, or this is what's coming? We
did. Yeah. We had once the three of us on our side who were sitting through most of the trainings. Once we kind of got, aware enough to really describe it ourselves, we did kind of a half day offsite with everybody, got them out of the machine shop, rented kind of a conference space downtown Bozeman here, and started kind of walking through. We'd create some training work orders and templates and walk them through. Show them some videos, show them, here's how you find the inspection plan. Here's how you enter in inspection data, just to kind of get them, doing some dry runs. And again, I think having the, just that training, the ability to create kind of a training client, and create kind of mock work orders. I do that actually when I'm onboarding, new hires, machinists and operators. I'll create a kind of a training work order for a kind of a dummy part basically, and walk them through. Here's how you clock in. Here's how you find the drawing, the balloon dimensions. Here's how you enter in all that stuff. And I think just, the more and more somebody's practicing that, obviously the quicker they're going to take up to it. So yeah, we wanted to make sure it wasn't, although people were excited, we wanted to make sure it wasn't like, all right, ready, set, go, we're going to start using it. So there's a lot of kind of, walking through with them, a lot of time on the shop floor to help people. And if we needed it, call in to tech support and, hey, we're having an issue, and yeah, it went really, really well.
I like that idea, doing all that in advance. That's pretty cool. So what changed after ProShop was live and you really kind of got comfortable with the workflows and things like that?
Yeah, probably the most immediate change that we saw was in setups, where again, I kind of referenced that tribal knowledge, which I would like to think our shop wasn't the only one who operated like that. You got a lot of people that guy knows that part, and that guy's, he's an expert on that part. And, when you get those orders in, they do it. So just having the ability to document setup instructions, tool lists, run descriptions, how do you load parts for operators, et cetera. And just having that there. So we kind of took that mentality. I want to be able to show anybody that I hire off the street, put them in front of a work order, and they can kind of click through, and it's pretty intuitive. You can you can kind of get a good sense of what you're doing. There might be 10% where you need to ask some questions, but you got your tool list, you've got your work holding, number of ops and just what you're doing. So I think putting that in, which wasn't something we were great at when we were on the kind of the paper version, setup instructions, you do them once and then they would get lost. And so just having that there, the ability to put part photos and screenshots from your CAM program, this is how we're loading it. This is where we're, where we're putting the jaws on the table. Even videos. I mean, that's, just I'm a visual learner. I think a lot of the younger people that we're hiring too, I mean, they're just used to that. They're used to pulling up their app and clicking through here and just, watching a tutorial, instead of going from paper to having interactive, setup instructions. I mean, that was probably the immediate, wow, this is pretty cool.
And what was the impact in terms of reduction or the ability to be more flexible with different people doing things?
Yeah, I would say, I don't have an exact number, but it was probably about a 50% increase in throughput. And it's still continuing, by the way. I mean, it's, this is something just to take a step back. We went through and we implemented ProShop. Let's do the low hanging fruit. Let's move from paper travelers to just the electronic work order. There's just a lot you can do, I think, with that, just having everything there in the work order, breaking it up by number of ops, being able to kind of click into each operation. You've got everything you need just for there. So it's highlighted just for what you're doing, knowing that there's a whole bunch more within ProShop. And there's stuff, honestly, there's modules that we have, just kind of started to scratch the surface with. So we started kind of, okay, big picture. Let's have this kind of run the inspection, the quality system, the work orders, kind of the day-to-day stuff. And like I said, that felt like about a 50% increase in throughput. And we kind of tabled those a little bit more complicated modules, which we're now tackling. For example, tooling, that's something within our shop that we've known it's an issue. We've known we had to do something to address just our tooling catalog, our tooling library, but it just never went anywhere. We had ideas of how we're going to catalog and inventory our tools. We've had outside tooling vendors come in and try to help us, provide us some tool cribs, and it just never went anywhere. And then we just probably about a year and a half ago, we had our shop floor manager, Josh, really said, I'm doing this. We're going to figure this out. And so putting all the tools within ProShop, where they used, min max orders, really getting it in there. And it's been awesome. I haven't had anybody in the last year come in with that empty plastic sleeve, like, hey boss, we just broke our last tool. That's the worst knock on the door you can get.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not only do you have to then expedite the tool, the machine is sitting idle.
Totally.
Or you're reprogramming it with a different tool, or you're doing something that's just hugely wasteful.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so did you see an increase in like spindle utilization or a decrease in downtime once you had the tooling module in place?
We did, yeah. It that kind of correlates just with the ability to schedule as well. So just I think having more transparency into, all right, this job is going to take X hours to set up. We've got a couple day runtime. Great, but what's queued up next? Let's make sure we've got the next job queued up, and we're not sitting around for a half day like, oh yeah, who's gonna set that up? Do we have everything? Has material even been ordered? So just the ability to have the schedule flow, I think, a little bit more fluid. So we saw that. Which obviously correlate, spindles were just turning a lot more, a lot less downtime. And again, I think it's the transparency of, going from, okay, the job is done when somebody comes up and says, hey, I'm done, to now looking and saying like, okay, the estimated completion date is this. If the next job is supposed to start, half day after, worst thing that could happen is we're ready and then nobody's ordered tooling or materials or whatever.
Of course, yeah.
So just that transparency to just have them click, one job to the next. So yeah, that definitely helped quite a bit.
So just to scaffold that process, are you using the pre-processing checklist function?
No, we're not, and it's something I'm being very candid. Yeah. It shows up. We're actually, my partner and I, we were getting into this last week in a good way, saying like, we need to do this. We are, and this was kind of the side conversation off of some war room planning that we were doing, where the pre-processing checklist, we kind of customize our own. We tried to simplify it quite a bit, where if I'm a machinist and I'm ready to get going, I always call it the sanity check to the guys. Like, let's look around, are we working on the right rev, the right print? Like, do we know number of ops that we're doing? Do we have material? Do we have the tooling? Do we have work holding, any inspection gauges or equipment we need? Just kind of a quick scan,
that's the essentials.
Exactly. Frankly, we've had plenty of jobs over the years where we're ready to start. And then, you do that and you look around and you're like, oh no, I didn't order that one, custom, whatever tool.
Custom tap or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you're back to your comment. You're down for a couple of days. And so trying to avoid that. But the guys just weren't using them. They were not using the pre-processing checklist, despite kind of paring that down to just simplifying it as best as possible. But that is something that we're tightening up our war room planning exercises, really going to take a step back, look at, what does that pre-processing checklist need to be? And then really kind of kicking that back out and saying, we have to use this. I mean, it's going to be a mandatory thing.
Yeah. And I presume you're familiar with how the checklist will change depending on the work order type that you have. So that first time job, the beginning of that checklist, of course, as is sort of natural in the workflow of a job, it starts in the office, right? Are we attaching the right revision drawing? For sure, not the one we quoted, but the one they sent us with the order. Are we confirming, that there are no special gauges that we need to get on order in advance, or special tools, or things that take some lead time. We've confirmed that the length we're going to cut this material is in alignment with what the programmer is going to do for work holding. We don't cut it 1/8 inch too short and have to scrap it all because we can't do that hole on the end. And then that flows, of course, into the shop. And hopefully, it sounds like this is part you're successfully doing, is, prepping those jobs before the last job is done, so that the next job is kind of, hopefully as set up offline as possible. Yep. Tools are there, materials there, programs ready to go. And because there shouldn't conceptually, there should not be anything on that checklist that isn't essential to be on the list.
Exactly.
Right. If it's not essential, it shouldn't be there. Right. It should be the absolute bare minimum. But that's a different checklist if it's a repeat job or if it's a brand new job.
Totally.
And
we do a lot of that. We do a lot of that at the very beginning in what we call war room planning. So a lot of that, instead of right before the machinist is about to, go to the machine and do their thing, we'll do that kind of in our risk and planning assessment, kind of confirm all that stuff. Is this a repeat job? Even if it is a repeat job, is it a complicated job? What scrap have we had? Looking at the process development, what did anybody make any connotations or notations from the last time to say, hey, I know we've used this ball and mill for, the last 3 times, but let's invest in some more expensive, better tooling, for example, because we're snapping tools left and right, or, whatever it may be. So we do that. It's just not, as religiously through the pre-processing checklist as I want it to be.
That's all right. I'll let you pass.
There you go.
No, that's, I mean, that the throughput improvement you described, that is so huge. Mm-hmm. So how, just maybe, as a percentage of growth, and you implemented ProShop in 20, what year?
We started in kind of late 2019, so it was right around spring of 2020, about 4 years ago, when we really went live with everything.
Got it. Okay, and maybe as a percentage, how much has the company grown? And it sounds like you have a number of quite a number more employees than you do today.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, we've almost doubled in revenue since then.
Okay.
It's been about a similar percentage growth in the terms of number of employees, and it's good. We're going through a good growth phase right now. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on. We're overwhelmed in a good way, just on the stuff that we're quoting, and the stressors in my life now are all good things. What kind of 5-axis machine are we going to get, and where are we going to find, people or automation to keep these jobs on track and, keep the on-time delivery up. So, I'd rather take those stressors than, hey, where's the next job going to come from? So it's good. We're at a good spot right now.
And so, describe for me a little bit of the dynamic where, previously the customer's like, nah, as long as you're following a standard, it's not really that important, to, it's absolutely essential. Like different clients, different industries that you wanted to get into, and how was getting the certification changed that dynamic, changed your opportunities?
Yeah, great question. And a lot of it is just different clientele in different industries. We weren't doing a lot in aerospace and defense 10 years ago.
Okay.
There were a handful of companies that it was preferred, if not required, that we were ISO 9001, but the AS stuff we just weren't doing. And so, again, 4 or 5 years ago, that was as we're doing strategic planning, we knew we wanted to get into aerospace defense, and as we just started interacting with potential customers, that was the pushback of like, if you do want to make that type of part, you absolutely need the certification. There might be a few things here and there that you could do, maybe create some fixtures or something, something non-production that you wouldn't need the aerospace certificate or certification. But the overwhelming result or answer was yes, you absolutely need that. And so it was a quick decision, just the potential versus the cost to go through that. We kind of buckled back down, and again, so the customers previous, they weren't really aerospace customers. They were, medical, commercial, heavy industrial, and their response there was, hey, we like the concept, but you just need to follow the guidelines. You don't actually have to have the certification. You can be compliant, and we're still good with you.
Got it. And so as you've gone out to search for new customers, have you, so it sounds like you have gotten more heavily now into aerospace and defense, and also have you gotten into commercial space as well? Yeah,
we have. Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, there's so much cool stuff happening. So we've picked up some nice aerospace customers, some of the top prime defense contractors. and starting to build some momentum with that. And then on the commercial space industry, I mean, like I said, just some cool stuff happening, to the point where, a lot of these companies, I'll read about them in a magazine, never having heard of them. And then, you do a little research, like, wow, I didn't even know this existed. So that's been the challenging thing, is just kind of keeping tabs on what's going on in commercial space. But yeah, we've picked up a handful of new clients, primarily in the last 6 months, satellite, equipment and components, rocket companies. I mean, it's pretty fun.
How have you gone after getting those customers?
It's been a journey.
I know you asked me about it.
Totally.
Several months ago, a year or two ago.
Yeah. No, you've been great on the feedback, and I mean, the overwhelming answer is just hustling. I mean, just trying to get out there. Our marketing strategy has been a little bit of everything. Once we got our aerospace certification in, I think it was late 2021. So later this year, we're coming up on our 3-year renewal. You got the certification, you actually got the piece of paper, you can put it on your website. And so I just went through and probably went to hundreds of websites, filled out the supplier survey, got in their system just to get in there. Some of it was LinkedIn, just reaching out to buyers, and lately starting to go to a handful of space and aerospace and defense conferences and just networking there. So it's been a little bit of everything, but it's kind of nice. And in some of the one of the larger primes that we've gotten into, for example, got in there, and that actually it's funny. That was just a blind website supplier survey that we filled out. A year went by, and we got a call out of the blue from somebody we didn't know saying, "Hey, we're looking for smaller machine shops to work with. We just went through our database, and you guys popped up. Do you want to work with us?" And we said, "Well, yeah."
Wow, so that does work.
It does work. They came. They did a site visit. Fast forward about a year, we've got about a year's worth of some really nice purchase orders under our belt with them. But then other buyers in that same company are starting to reach out to us. Just people, again,
yeah, of course,
same ending,
good reputation.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of nice. Just if we can build that, I mean, that's how any company wants to grow and get more clients. Sure. Right? It's purely reputation based. So it's kind of nice to see that coming to fruition as well.
When they came out to do that site audit, how did that process go? What did you show them? Yeah. What did they say? Yeah, obviously it instilled enough confidence that they moved forward with you.
Sure, it was good. I happened that week to have COVID, so I was working from home, so I didn't actually get to be there. The team did a great job, just kind of doing that. But it was one person who came out, and it was interesting. He was almost, again, this is a huge prime defense contractor, and they were almost trying to sell us on, hey, here's why you should work with us. And we're thinking like it should be the other way around. We should be begging you for work, So he was kind of going through some of their new projects that they're working on, talking about deliveries and requirements and things of that nature. A lot of it was on cybersecurity. Gave him the tour of the shop, and resonated really well. I think we show very well now. I'm very proud to kind of tour potential clients and existing customers through the shop right now. Whereas again, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, before we had moved into this new space, it was almost embarrassing. Mm-hmm. It was cluttered. Mm-hmm. It did not show well. And so the guys on the shop floor, credit to them. Like a lot of this has come from them, where they, little things like shadow boards and the tooling inventory, the fixture shelves, everything is, I love as an owner seeing a lot of these ideas come from the guys on the shop floor instead of me like pushing it on them, saying, hey, we need to do this. They'll come with an idea, and, they got to justify whatever price or time it takes. But, the guys on the shop floor, it's kind of nice. I mean, I get the sense they're absolutely seeing the vision that we're laying out, and they're helping out on their own. We're not having to kind of, keep people, within the guardrails. So, so that back to your question, that tour went really well. And, yeah, we've since picked up a handful of purchase orders from
awesome.
them. Yeah.
So that the change with fixturing and tooling and shadow boards, did you start a formal sort of lean program, or did people just, some natural leaders in the shop that learned about this stuff and decided they wanted to do it in your company?
Yeah, it's definitely the latter. We don't really have a formal system. I mean, we've all kind of read the Toyota Way and some of the 5S books out there, the lean manufacturing processes, but our excuse up until recently has been, listen, we're a job shop. I mean, it's, you can definitely see the value for lean manufacturing and 5S when you're a huge production plant spitting out millions of the same parts a year. Every little second, every little foot of movement has an impact and a cost. But for a job shop, where a lot of times we walk in the door, we don't even know what we're quoting, and we could be making that same part later that day. So it's tough to kind of implement lean practices, but we're definitely the leadership on the shop floor is taking what we can, just the low hanging fruit, organization. Doesn't matter if you're doing one part or 1,000 parts, having your tools, your equipment right there, or being able to find them, it just helps. And so, it's been a lot of just homegrown stuff, a lot of guys coming with ideas. And there's a few things that we're looking at through our local MEC program, where they do have some classes to kind of go through, and you can get, lean certified on various practices. So we're looking at maybe sending a person or two to that to kind of take it to the next level. But thus far, it's just been ideas on the shop floor that, they're just bringing them, and I love it.
Have you guys ran across the book 2 Second Lean?
No, I haven't heard of that, but
check it out. 2 Second Lean by Paul Akers.
Okay.
He's actually, he lives right here in my town as well.
Oh, cool.
Has a company called Fast Cap, and they make equipment for like construction and remodeling and woodworking and things like that. But Paul's become quite famous in the lean space, and I know a ton of our clients, just job shops, have implemented the whole concept of 2 Second Lean. And the idea is basically do something that takes 2 seconds out of your process every day, right? Just small incremental improvements, and even for a one-off job shop, it's absolutely essential.
Yeah,
right? It's just move that torque wrench, over here instead of at the end of the bench, right? And so every time you're going to torque that vise, it's closer, not 2 steps away. And quite honestly, there's a lot of. Go ahead.
I was going to say, such a simple concept, right? Like, but the implementation and the repetition of something like that, I don't quote me on the stat, but it's something like it takes 30 days, to form a habit. It's everything after your New Year's resolution, going to the gym, eating healthier. You start out for a week and you're feeling all good, and then into January comes and it's like, well, we kind of got sidetracked. So something like that, I think it's just, hammer it home and just making it part of the routine, but simple in practice, but very difficult to implement stuff like that. But I'll definitely have to check that out.
Well, one of the sort of principles of it is which, he did at his company, and I got to, tour back when we had our shop. We would go send people to tour his shop, and he would send some people over to tour our shop. But the idea, which they, and I've had customers fully buy into this, is like the first 15 to 20 minutes of every single day is doing your lean activities. Like, do something before you actually start running your machines, right? Or maybe start your machine running and then focus on, while it's running, you're focusing on your lean activities.
Sure.
Anyway, it's a cool book. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
With those, when that customer came and audited, did ProShop feature at all in sort of what you were showing them about how you ran the business? And
not necessarily on that particular visit, but we had an existing customer come in. This was right around the end of last year, so we'll call it 4 months ago. They're a customer that they've got. They're actually based in Boston, and they had their board of directors and some employees come out here as they were looking to move from some production or some prototype stuff, onesie twosies to, hey, we're going to take these parts that you've been making and we're going to do some production runs. And so touring those guys through and, which again, I love, I'm very proud to do it and walk people through, but I love pulling up on ProShop, I don't stage this. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but having work orders and I go straight to the in-process checks, whether it's a customer requirement or not, and just saying like, look at this. This is, if we're looking at traceability, whether you require it or not, this is just good practice. So having, again, I'm like, I don't know what this part is. I don't have a print pulled up. You can imagine these are, 25 different dimensions. Green is good. Yellow, still good. Red, if you see a red, that's bad. And walking them through and just showing the ability, everything's time stamped. We know what associate, what operator took that dimension on what day and what time with what equipment. Even having the little spark lines at the end, you can kind of see the inspection trends, which that's where, it's very specific, but I found, especially in this particular customer, who was out here with their team from Boston. I mean, just seeing that. And, I kind of use that as a predictive analytic, looking at, if something is kind of hovering right on nominal. To me, it's a very in control process. We've got that dialed in. If you start seeing some movement, maybe to the upper or lower boundary, who knows what's happening. Maybe it's time to flip an insert and, get a fresh cutting tool. Maybe there's some offset adjustment that needs to be made, but, doing that before a tool breaks or before a part goes out of spec. And that, their jaws just like dropped down. It was, pretty cool. So that worked. The stars aligned. We had a good work order going on that I could pull that up and all the data was filled out and it felt really good. But, I think having that and then just, also showing people, existing customers with ProShop, just how everything is kind of tied in and linked together. You need your material cert. Well, I click here. It shows what my purchase order number was to that vendor. It's got the cert here. There's no more rifling around and losing stuff. So that resonates really, really well.
Yeah, I love it. I continuously say that, companies like that, they have their mission, they rely on their vendors a huge amount. Right? If a vendor drops the ball and doesn't send in parts or they're not good or they're scrap or something, like huge egg on their face for the buyer. Plus it may legitimately put their production at risk.
Totally.
So they want to be as confident as they can be that their suppliers are going to be rock solid. And it's those kind of systems that help you ensure that, we're making good parts. We know when they're going to be done. They'll be there on time. And if anything risks that, well in advance and you can have a discussion about it.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Love it. So how has, if at all, how has ProShop changed the culture of the company?
It's tough to classify that. I mean, it's definitely helped change it for the better. We've got, a lot of younger aged people joining our firm, people right out of trade school or college. So we're not composed of a bunch of near retirement aged machinists. And again, I think back to the generation that we're hiring now, they're so used to everything being digital, being immediately accessible. I think back, if we were still on our paper traveler system, we get potential employees touring through it, and maybe I'm overreacting, but I can just see them kind of like, nah, it's not for me. So it's a big selling point. It's not just customers, it's potential employees when they're coming through where, showing them everything is real time. I think that has definitely helped to shift the culture. Like I said, we've gone from more reactive just in general to proactive where, everybody sees the benefit of utilizing ProShop to its ability, the tooling modules, fixture modules, the work, setup instructions, etc. So the culture, again, when I'm not, telling people, hey, this is coming from me, I need you to do this. This is, you got to do this. They're coming to me saying, hey, you have to do this. Like, we're going to do this. We're just telling you about it. So it's going to save, hours
huge.
of time. Yeah. And so again, that's just, it kind of warms your heart a little bit as an owner. They're like, yeah, these guys, they're not just coming in and punching in, punching out. Like, they get it. They want to see improvements. And, I always tell new hires, like, I've got thick skin, man. You're not going to offend me if you come with an idea, a solution. I'm always really surprised, just hearing like horror stories about other shops and other places of employments where you can't propose ideas. You can't, your job is to be chained to that machine, hit your quota, clock in, clock out, just hit your parts and do it again the next day and the next 20 years. And, that's not how we are. It's, I almost it's a red flag if somebody doesn't come to me saying, hey, I want to do a setup, or I want to be a machinist. I want to program that part. We want to see them kind of, hungry to move to the next step. And if they're not, again, it's kind of like, well, what are you doing here? If you don't want to improve yourself, maybe this isn't the right spot for you. So, the culture is tricky because you can't, wave pixie dust and, hey, here's the culture and it's exactly what I wanted. I mean,
for sure.
You can guide it a little bit, but no, it's really good right now. I feel just the mentality and the energy in the shop floor. And I'll go out and I'll put my little laptop on a desk out there and work and just kind of observe. And it's fun to see the energy right now.
That's very cool. Do you, finding employees and retaining, for that matter, is one of the hardest things for almost every shop is dealing with the inability to find enough good skilled people. How have you gone about sort of solving that workforce challenge? Are you mostly hiring entry level folks and training them, or are you're
glitching out just a little
colleges bit. Program machining programs? Oh, am I okay? Oh,
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I saw your Wi-Fi signal drop to a low spot. Let me just get the timestamp here.
Oh, gotcha. I can hear you fine now.
You're back in the green. So,
okay.
All right. Let's see.
I heard a little bit about employees and just finding people.
Good. Yeah. Let me just re-ask the question here.
Yeah.
So I know most shops these days are having a hard time finding skilled people, finding enough workers, and even retaining them to some degree. How have you gone about trying to find employees, either training them from basic or finding, people that already have a, skill set? How are you going about doing that?
Yeah, it's tricky. And again, fully understanding we're not the only ones. I mean, all across the country, all across different industries. I mean, labor, wages, housing, it's all very complicated right now. So the traditional method that used to work for us, we'll hire a couple people out of our local trade school, or we're a small community here in Bozeman, and so there's just not a lot of machine shops, and we really don't like poaching from one another because it gets very personal. But that being said, I mean, there's just not a lot of opportunities. You'll get some guys just kind of going through machine shop to machine shop. That doesn't work anymore. I mean, it's a lot of people. The housing issue is really, it's a real thing for us here. We're still a rural environment in Bozeman. I mean, our population's about 50,000. Our average house price just went above $1 million, and so getting some of these,
that's crazy.
Getting people to stay here to afford to live here. Both prospective and current employees. I mean, it's tricky. So we've had some turnover in the last year or two. Guys coming in and saying, listen, I hate to leave, but I got to move to, a town a couple hours away because, cheaper housing and I can afford to live there. And it pains me as an owner because I want nothing more than everyone to have the ability to buy a house here. And if they want to start a family and raise a family and stay here. But I also, and I tell them this, like, I also can't just raise your wage to what it needs to be to accommodate your housing situation. Because if I did that for everybody, we'd be out of business in 45 days. I need to balance,
Sure.
Our payroll, appropriately.
Yeah, with what you can charge.
Yeah. So we've had to pivot and be creative. I mean, there's certain automation that we've been bringing in house. We've got 3, soon to be, I think, 4 universal robot cobots, just simple stuff, just part tending, machine tending, bar feeders here and there. We get pretty creative. We've got a kind of an engineering support department here that we'll pull a whole bunch of automation equipment, make our own little fixtures and machines, and try to automate processes where we can. But if it comes back to workforce, instead of just hiring, somebody who's come through a machining program, I'm not opposed to hiring, people. I actually really like people that have gone through fast food or restaurant, employment before. They're used to like a fast-paced environment. They're used to it's got to be right. If it's not right, the customer's not going to be happy. They can juggle certain, a handful of things at the same time. So I always tell people, and again, some of this is just, we couldn't do this without ProShop. You've got to be willing to learn. You got to be reliable. You've got to be inquisitive, and we'll teach the rest. You do not need to know anything about machining. It's great if you've seen a Haas controller before, but it's not a requirement anymore. Right. And we've had kind of good success with that. People coming in without bias or opinion, or hey, I know what I'm doing, kind of thing. If they're willing to learn. Right. And we've seen some of those people kind of graduate up and get promoted within the company.
I love it. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I remember, I'm sure I've told this story on the podcast before, but a shop I was at, and they had a young guy who was setting up a 5-axis machine on night shift. And I said, which shop did you come from before? Or how long have you been here? And he's like, 6 months. And I said, which shop did you come from? And he said, I came from KFC. I'm like, I don't know that shop, because he was setting up a 5-axis mill on night shift. I'm like, you clearly, know your stuff. And he's like, no, I just, this is my first machining job. And he's like, he showed me the ProShop page. Wow. And it was videos and pictures, and just like you're describing, a really well-defined setup that anyone with mechanical aptitude could understand that and follow it and get crazy. It done. Yeah.
I'm slinging chicken, setting up 5-axis parts.
So I'd love to ask you if you could, so you've been doing ProShop about 4 years now. And what do you think the company would look like today if you had not done ProShop and just stuck with your paper and your Word and Excel documents?
If we were still around and alive, I think it would be just scraping by. I mean, I can't, it's a great question, because I can't imagine what it would operate like in the old way anymore. I mean, again, we wouldn't be in the aerospace industry. We could not be able to handle that just on a paper system, workbooks, all over the place. The lack of traceability, the lack of attention to detail, we just couldn't do it. So we'd be your kind of standard job shop doing, hoping for knocks on the doors, hoping for, phone calls and trying like crazy to get on bid lists and, quoting stuff where we can. I think we would survive with the existing customer base at the time, but we've got some fairly ambitious growth plans here, and we can't do it without ProShop. I mean, there's just no way around it. So, yeah. Now you're gonna leave me with that idea or that thought in my head. If we weren't on ProShop, what would my life be looking like today? So I'm glad I don't have to think about that.
Well, thank you. That sounds like it really has been a transformational journey over the last 4 years. So
it has. It's been great. Your team's been phenomenal to work with, and honestly, just the thing that we really like too is just from ProShop standpoint, the continuous improvement. It's not just buying off the shelf package and it's there and it doesn't grow with you. I mean, one of the latest features is just having that 3D model in the estimate. I mean, that's simple, but just being able to spin a part around when you're quoting it. looking at dimensions and complicated features on that. So, I mean, just, new versions, new iterations coming out, whether it's the user interface or something a little bit more techie, kind of behind the scenes. So that, growing with the industry has been pretty cool to see, from our standpoint.
That's awesome. So, how has, becoming an owner of this business, how is it different than you originally imagined when you first started talking to Matt about it? It's obviously you've been on a big transformation journey just yourself.
Totally.
From a PE guy or, banker guy. So,
well, I don't think I've worn a tie in 6 years, which is nice. I don't have to do that. I don't have to get on an airplane or wake up in a hotel room and remember what city I'm in anymore. So that's been nice. You can't take the CNC machines with you, but I think I've heard you say it before, where machining is the hardest business in the world. And, absolutely. Like if you said that to me 10 years ago, I'd be like, no, come on. There's plenty of other ones, more difficult than that. But I'm with you, man. It is challenging. Like I love the fast paced nature. I love troubleshooting and problem solving, but it's, every day is different. You come in and we always joke about this. You come in Monday morning with, hey, here's what I'm going to do today. And here's my plan for the week. And we're going to do this. And by about 11 o'clock that morning, you're doing something different, so it's, it's challenging, but it's good. I think you gotta, stay up with technology. You've got to stay up with manufacturing trends, which again, super cool things happening in manufacturing these days.
For sure.
Kind of back to your previous question. I mean, we're looking at, I think it's called Cloud NC, just like the AI programming,
right.
I don't know if it's been fully rolled out now, but there's some demos and beta versions, but things like that where, 3 years ago, that wasn't even a concept. And now it's kind of like, wow, that's, that could be a game changer. So staying on top of some of the trends. But yeah, it's definitely, it's a challenging industry.
Yes, it is, but very rewarding and definitely not boring.
No,
for sure.
Not boring.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you being a customer. Appreciate being able to be a partner in your journey and your success over the years. It's been fun to, have you reach out to ask things and then see it happening. And, the video we shot with you a while ago, it's just, it's very cool to see a company like yours thriving.
It's been my pleasure. It's been great to be on this. And again, kudos to you and your team for all you do. I mean, like I said, starting out, I'm glad there's a resource for either new shop owners or people looking to improve. So podcasts and just, the knowledge that is out there right now from you and your group and just other people in the industry. I wouldn't be here, if not for podcasts like that. So yeah, again, appreciate everything you do for the industry.
Oh, it's our pleasure. We love it. So it's hard not to just jump in with both feet.
Totally.
Awesome. So if people want to learn about Autopilot and maybe reach out to you for an RFQ, how would you suggest they do that?
Probably easiest place is autopilotdesign.com. You can find our website. Email addresses are on there, info@autopilotdesign. You can hit a quote button on there, and then our social media sites are linked to there as well.
Okay, awesome. We'll make sure to include those. So Matt, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. Good luck in the next several years, and I look forward to watching you guys grow.
Paul, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Good afternoon, buddy. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Yeah. How about you?
Well, I am riding a high because I just talked to Lindsay from Autopilot and just had a really fun conversation. So first of all, he reminded me that he met us at first he heard about us on Making Chips, the podcast, which was sort of, we were in his memory. And then he walked by our booth at the I-90 conference in Eastern Washington, right on that Idaho border in Coeur d'Alene, Spokane. And I was given a demo to somebody, and he just like whipped his head and started watching. And he knew like right away.
Oh,
He's
that's
like, this is made for people like me. So, and he wasn't always people like us because he was more in like the investment side. And then he lives in Bozeman, Montana, and
okay.
he's a avid fly fisherman. And he like found, he just like, maybe he just like looked up or ran across this local company that makes fly fishing reels. And he just asked the guy, "Hey, can I come down and learn about your process?" And the guy's like, "Sure, bring a six-pack of beer. That'll be the cost of entry." So he liked that guy immediately. His name is Matt, also ironically. But so he went down, ended up spending a long time, and then kind of disconnected. But then several months later, reconnected with them and decided to buy into the business and became one of the
Oh,
owners.
wow. That's
And
awesome.
they had a job shop side and then the product side for the reels. But yeah, they saw, just really powerful improvements in, when they bought ProShop in. He said they saw an increase in just their general shop floor throughput of around 50%. Just
50%. Wow,
yeah,
amazing.
50% just
Jeez.
from efficiencies in setups, not, walking around looking for tools, better quality, not having to do as much scrap or rework, just so many different things, better planning up front. This is a theme across so many clients,
Right.
which I know is a foundation that you espouse and have for a long, long
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
So
Very much so. Well, that's great. That sounds amazing. I mean, that's just like epic uh quantity. 50% is huge, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
yeah.
it's been good. And then they went and got AS certified with ProShop. So they were not
Good.
certified prior, and they're now doing work for for many sort of big primes, big primes in the aerospace and defense market, and we've just kind of opened the world to them with the tools that ProShop has for certification, and of course, having bought into this business just a few years before, there's a lot of learning curve from him, for
Right.
him, and he kind of manages the business side, the finance side, and his partner, runs the shop floor and is more technical, kind of like you were, back in the Pro
Right.
CNC days.
Yeah.
And they are using so many tools. They're using IPCs and showing customers, and just it's been a sales tool for them, and
Oh, good.
it's just made a big difference in their world. So it just feels really good. These are just the most gratifying conversations to have.
Yeah,
So
that
share
sounds
them and share them
awesome.
with you. So
And to hear about them going, we started in a fishing reel niche and then decided that, we could do a lot of things and there were, big markets to be had. And it's funny that you say the fishing reel piece because I know we have at least a couple other clients who have fishing reel lines as like a
yes.
subset of their, aerospace and precision manufacturing business. So that's interesting. I wonder what it is that like fishing reel businesses end up getting into it.
Well, I think they're high value, high complexity, high engineering parts. I mean, we obviously did a bunch of fly fishing stuff ourselves back
Yep.
in the Pro CNC
Yeah.
days. Those are some of the most challenging parts we made, right? They were
Yeah,
so
right.
high tolerance, so high
Super cosmetic.
cosmetics. And yeah, so they're machining heavy. So yeah, why not? That idea of having your own product, obviously, I feel like every shop, the grass is always greener. They're like, oh, if we had our own product, and then product people are like, oh, if we were more like a job shop, you
Yeah,
know.
right.
And then there's clients that do both, which is I
Yeah.
think a great business model. You have some
Yeah.
bread and butter work to fill in when your job shop's not busy, and just opportunities to grow if your market really takes off. And I mean, even someone like Roush Yates is an example, not fly fishing reels, but they had
Right.
all this
Specialized.
capacity to make NASCAR engine parts, and then they branched into aerospace defense, medical, the whole gamut, in a big way. And now, I don't know how their revenue is compared to engine parts versus the other stuff, but it's substantial, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if companies like that and on that journey, end up with a good but smaller portion of their own product because the market is so big on the other
Yeah,
side of it. And especially really, you know, captive markets like NASCAR engines. There's only so many NASCAR engines you need to build, right? It's not like, oh,
sure.
next year NASCAR is 25% bigger. So
That's
yeah.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
And yeah, the other ones are at least right now booming. So
yeah, awesome. Well, good for them. And Autopilot, how fantastic.
yeah. All right. Thanks, buddy. Catch you on
All
the
right,
next one.
we'll talk soon.
Bye.